Have you ever been in a relationship that left you feeling just completely spun around, questioning your own reality? Well, you are not alone. Today, we're going to unpack that whole experience of being entangled with a narcissist. We're going to walk through the common questions people have and hopefully turn some of that confusion into real clarity. All right, let's dive right in. We're going to follow a path that, unfortunately, a lot of people are going to recognize. We'll start in that initial fog, then move through to distortion and the trap, really understand what the collapse feels like. And then, most importantly, chart the path back through reorientation and finally integration. Think of it as a roadmap for our journey today. So let's start at the very beginning, in what we're calling the early fog. This is that time that feels absolutely electric, so incredibly special, but underneath it all, there's this deep, unsettling confusion that you just can't quite put your finger on. And that confusion, it usually centers around this exact question. You look back and think, wow, it felt like a movie. It felt like we were soulmates. And it's so hard to square that powerful beginning with all the pain that came later. So let's break down what was really going on. Okay, this slide is so important because it shows the gap between how it felt and what it was. That feeling of a deep, instant connection, that was actually acceleration. It's a strategy to create dependency, fast, before you even have a chance to think. And that amazing feeling of being truly seen for who you are, well, that was idealization. You were being projected onto, basically cast in a role they needed you to play. The biggest takeaway here? Intensity was mistaken for genuine depth. Now let's move into the next phase. This is often where the real damage starts to set in. The initial fog begins to lift, but what replaces it is a deliberate distortion of your reality that makes you question your own mind. This right here is such a classic part of the experience. And the question itself reveals two powerful forces at play. On one hand, you feel like you're losing your mind, and on the other, you feel completely addicted to the person who's making you feel that way. And those two feelings, they are absolutely connected. And here's why. First, you've got gaslighting. And it is so crucial to understand this. It's not just about telling lies. It's a systematic erosion of your reality, piece by piece, until you can no longer trust your own gut, your own perceptions. Then there's the trauma bond. That wild cycle of good moments followed by awful ones, that isn't love. It's a form of intermittent reward that creates a powerful chemical addiction to that roller coaster of pain and relief. This is just a brilliant way to understand that hot and cold behavior so many people talk about. One day they adore you, the next day you're invisible. You might think, oh, they're just confused, but it's not about you. It's about their regulation. Real closeness feels threatening to them, so they push you away. That distance restores their sense of control. It's a mechanism, not some big mystery about their feelings for you. So now we get to the trap. This section is for anyone who's ever said to themselves, I know this is bad for me, but I just can't seem to leave. We're going to look at the invisible forces that keep you feeling so stuck. This is such a painful, frustrating place to be. You see the cycle, you recognize the manipulation, you know the pattern, but your feet just feel like they're stuck in cement. The logic is crystal clear in your head, but making your body follow through feels impossible. And here's one of the most powerful reasons why. We often think fear is what keeps us in bad situations. But in these dynamics, it's hope. You're not just staying to avoid a fight, you're staying for the hope that that amazing person from the very beginning is going to come back. And that hope can be a much stronger chain than fear ever could. The trap also gets reinforced by this really sneaky process. For example, maybe you ask for basic respect and you're told you're being too demanding or needy. You ask for a little consistency and you're labeled controlling. So over time, you just stop asking. You abandon your own needs, and that act of abandoning yourself starts to feel like a good thing. like you're just being patient or understanding or the bigger person. All of this, the fog, the distortion, the trap, it all leads to this next phase, the collapse. And this isn't just a breakup. This is the feeling that your entire sense of who you are has just crumbled into dust. And that really is the core of it, isn't it? You don't just feel heartbroken. You feel completely lost. Like you don't even know who you are anymore without that other person there to define you. So here's the thing. Your sense of self didn't just disappear overnight. It was slowly, bit by bit, outsourced. Instead of checking in with yourself and asking, how do I feel about this? You started to constantly check their reaction to figure out how you should feel. Your own gut feeling got replaced by their response as your main reality check. So you finally do it. You make the break, you go no contact. But instead of relief, it's just agony. It's this deep, physical, emotional pain that literally feels like you're losing a limb. This reframe is absolutely everything. It feels like withdrawal because it is withdrawal. Your nervous system is detoxing from the chemical high of the trauma bond. That intense pain is not proof that you made a mistake or lost your soulmate. It is proof that your body is finally starting to heal. Okay, now that we understand the collapse, we can actually start to build the path back. This is the reorientation phase. This is where you begin to find your own solid ground again, one step at a time. This is almost always the first big question that surfaces when you start to heal. You're trying so hard to make sense of everything, and that search for answers so often turns into self-blame. Let's be perfectly clear. No, it was not your fault. But this slide shows a really important distinction between blame and responsibility. Blame just keeps you stuck in the past. It's totally disempowering. Responsibility, though, that's about looking at what vulnerability inside of you got hooked. Maybe you tend to mistake intensity for love, or you think being loyal means enduring anything. Understanding that isn't about blaming yourself. It's about taking your power back for the future. And that brings us right to our final section, integration. This is where you take all this painful awareness, all these hard-earned lessons, and you turn it into real, lasting wisdom that's going to protect you from here on out. This is the ultimate goal, right? It's not just about healing from what happened. It's about building a fortress for your future, making sure you never, ever find yourself in this kind of dynamic again. And the strategy here is kind of surprising. It's all internal. It's not about getting better at spotting red flags in other people. In fact, step one is to stop scanning for them. Instead, all the focus turns inward. Step two, you strengthen the boundary with yourself. And step three is the final goal. You get to a place where betraying your own feelings, your own intuition, becomes completely, utterly intolerable to you. Because when you can abandon yourself, these dynamics just can't take root. And as you heal and move forward, please hold on to this final, crucial thought. When you start building healthy connections, they might feel really calm, stable, maybe even a little boring at first. That feeling isn't a red flag telling you something's wrong. It's a green flag. It's the feeling of safety. It's what your nervous system needs to get used to after it was trained to think that chaos was the signal for love. And that quiet peace, that's the real thing. That's the destination.